Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, Episode 8.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to bringing you useful information on custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to take your game to new heights. Well, today I'm really delighted to bring you an interview with a good friend, Bob Sims, the head coach of the St. John Fisher College golf teams in Rochester, New York. And Bob will talk a lot about how he helps his teams prepare for success. This was really a week of competition, wasn't it? A great final round in the PGA Championship. And in fact, my brother and I every year play a member guest tournament in Oak Ridge at the Oak Ridge Country Club, and this was our weekend for that. And we did pretty well in it. We took second place in our flight. We always want to do better, but we had quite a lot of fun doing that. And there were some really interesting things that happened at the end of the tournament. But yesterday I actually did the first version of the recording of this introductory part of my podcast, and it just didn't feel right because there was something I had wanted to put in it that I left out. I woke up in the middle of the night and said, come on now, you got to fix this. And I had what I wanted. I actually found this on my iPad in the morning, so I'm including it. But it was really fascinating to me from the standpoint of the tournament that my brother and I played in to kind of watch how important it was for people to sort of stay in the process of what they were doing. We played on the last day, and we were not playing very well in the beginning. And it's a little complicated to explain the format of things. But after the fifth hole, we actually had a scorekeeper that was supposed to be with us, and he wasn't. And the assistant pro came along finally on the fifth hole, and he kept our score. We were playing by ourselves. And right after that, we just sort of kind of relaxed and let go a little bit and enjoyed the round a little bit more. And we played 5 great holes, and if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have finished in second place. And we made pars and net birdies and things like that. And that was what helped us. And then in the final part of the tournament, our particular member guests, they have a winner-take-all at the end where you start out with 12 teams, go down to 6 to 4 to 2, and the final 2 teams play the last hole. These 2 teams got on the last hole, and one of the teams had to make a 20-foot putt. One of the players had to make a 20-foot putt for a 6 net 5. A really difficult putt, and he made it, and everybody just, went wild. It was great, almost great theater. So they had to go back and play the last hole again. It poured down rain. We had to wait a half an hour. They went and played, and the 2 teams got on the last hole again. And the team that made the 20-foot putt to go into the next round of to go back and replay the last hole. They had a 1-foot putt, and they missed it. And it was heartbreaking, but it just points out to me, and also, the experience I had, I believe with my brother playing and playing well at the end and just watching the PGA tournament, how important it is to not get so hung up on results, but really just go through your process of making your best shot and making your best stroke. And Mike McFadden's talked about this and helping me with my short game, just falling in love with the process of getting better and falling in love with the process of preparing for your shot. So this is the thing that I really wanted to include that I didn't when I recorded yesterday, and it was a little quote from Rory McIlroy, and it was from 2011, where he talked about losing yourself and losing yourself in your preparation for your golf shots. And here's what he said. Yeah, going back to what I said yesterday, I'm really focusing on the process of making a good decision about what the target should be and making a good golf swing. If you can do that, And if you can lose yourself in trying to do that, that's really what I've tried to do. Make good decisions, make good golf swings. And as long as you make a good decision, even if you don't quite make a good golf swing, you can't really do anything about it. That's all I've been trying to do, especially today. Really lose yourself in that shot that you're playing at that moment in time and not think about anything else. Now, this was in first of all, what a great quote. And just, it's worthwhile playing good golf and doing the things you can to do it. This was in the Eye on the Tour blog post back in 2011. So it's really fun to kind of get into that, losing yourself in the process, and then sitting back and just being able to accept the results. And I think if you do that, quite a lot of the times that happens, you're going to really like what you get. So I hope you enjoy this interview with my good friend, Bob Sims. This is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast, and I'm really delighted today to be talking with Bob Sims, who's the coach of the St. John Fisher College golf teams in Rochester, New York. His teams have been very successful over the past few years, and Bob has actually been recently named the Regional Division III Coach of the Year for the 6th time. Just as important, Bob likes Dunkin' Donuts coffee, so that when I get to visit Rochester, hopefully every Thanksgiving we get to do that, although we've been criticized for not spending time in the Sam Putt Lab, haven't we, Bob?
Yes.
But we know who that guy is. So welcome, Bob. I'm really delighted you're going to do this. And so I'm just going to let you march in. I always like, at least personally, I like to hear what people's stories are in terms of how they've kind of gotten where they are. And so if you talk a little bit about how you came about to be a golf coach.
Well, it's a funny story. In 2000, I was the head baseball coach. And to be honest, I was burnt out. With a roster of about 27 players, it was just getting to be too difficult on a part-time basis. Now I might add the job was full-time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the athletic director had a heart attack. It was a Friday. It was interesting. It was funny that one of the board members gave me a call, whose nephew played on my baseball team, and gave me the word. And on Monday, I went to his house to see him. And I said to him, Bob, his name is Bob Ward. Yeah. Bob, I'm done coaching baseball. This is my last season. So the season, we had a good season. It ended. And I said to him, if you want me to assist Bob on the golf team, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah.
I had played a lot of golf with Bob, and he knows at that time I was a pretty good player. Well, 2 months down the road in the summertime, he said to me, Bob, would you be interested in taking over the golf team, the men's golf team? And I said, no. I'm willing to assist, but I do not want to make a full commitment to being the head coach. After all, I want to play golf in the fall myself.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, he talked me into it. So in 2001 season, it was my first year coaching golf. After the first year, I went into his office and I said, Bob, I quit. He looks at me, he says, why? I said, well, the current roster, they just don't want to practice. They don't want to get better. And if I'm going to coach a team, they have to want to do that. And he suggested that I get rid of the people that weren't willing to work hard and recruit my butt off.
Yeah.
I said, well, you will receive a lot of phone calls, people being cut, their parents will be calling you, complaining. He says, I could deal with the calls.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, once again, I cut everyone and started all over again with freshmen that I had recruited. And we kept getting better year in, year out, and which brought us to where we are today. That's how I got started.
My goodness. Now, so is the athletic director still there, too?
Yes, he is.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
It's funny that when I started coaching baseball in 1988, I was the first coach that he had hired.
Yeah. Well, he obviously saw something in you that could translate to golf, and plus, you being a player, that made a big difference too. I'm sure. So, well, I asked you. I know you've prepared a few with some of these questions that I talked to you about, but one of the things that sort of fascinates me in talking with you is, and when I watched the NCAAs this year, I got a really different perspective of what golf coaches do. There's a lot of hands-on stuff there, but so I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you feel is unique about being a golf coach in terms of how you work with golfers to improve their game. Well,
it's two-pronged. The preparation for a golf tournament is essential. What I believe separates us from the other Division III schools is that our preparation is very good.
Yeah.
We chart every green for every tournament that we play. We chart the degree of break at 15 locations on each green. This takes time. We do this during our practice round.
Yeah.
So that our players will always have an idea of where the putt is going to break, whether left, right, straight, if it's down the fall line. They have a good idea what the putt's going to do. In addition to that, they have a good idea where they want to hit their approach shots. So that's one thing that we do as far as preparation. In addition to that, each night, the night before the tournament, we go over our game plan so that we can plan our attack, how we're going to attack each hole. We go over each hole individually and plan out what club we're going to hit off the tee. It's not always a driver. If it's a par 4 or par 5. And we gauge where the best place to come in from, which side of the fairway is the best to come in to attack that whole location. And we also look at where do we want to avoid? What spots do we want to avoid? What places do we have to miss so that we can get up and down successfully? Now, during the course of a tournament, I will only see these players maybe 4 times. So golfers have to be very strong-willed. They have to have a strong mind and be able to follow the game plan. I see them generally on par 3s, and then we talk about what's going on, and I give them the yardage to the par 3 that I'm standing on, and we talk about the club we're going to hit, the direction of the wind, so on and so forth. All the details before they make their shot. So once they pick a club and stand over the shot, they are 100% committed to what they want to do. So once again, I see them 4 times, each player about 4 times during the course of a round. So it's very critical that we go over this before the round of golf and plan our strategy so that we will be successful.
I do a lot of John Wooden reading, and there's so many similarities in some of the things you talk about. I mean, I'm sure you followed what he did when he was a coach, and they were always very, very prepared for whatever was going to happen. So it certainly seems like it's that kind of thing too. And I'm sure before the rounds when they're playing and practicing and trying to improve, they're doing things like that too. So they have their own game plans, I guess, right?
Well, each individual, we try to draw out a blanket game plan that each individual will follow. However, each player is different.
Yeah.
My number 1 player, I will talk to privately because he can do certain things that my number 4 or number 5 player cannot do.
Yeah.
So we each player has a different type of game plan.
Yeah. Now, talk a little bit about your sense of some of the best success stories you had. I assume your success feels best about teams and things, but maybe even individuals. Whatever you want to talk about in terms of success stories related to what you've done over the past few years.
Well, in 2008, our team finished 3rd at the national championship. During that year, our number 1 player won the individual portion of the championship. In fact, he is the only champion at St. John Fisher College. His name is Scotty Harris.
Uh-huh.
And it's unusual that, I think it's unusual that the year before, I think he finished 40th in 2007, and he came back. He was very upset at how poor that he played. And he had an interview with his local paper, which I read about a week after he gave the interview, and he stated in the interview that he was going to win the championship the next year.
Huh.
So, lo and behold, he does it. And he also won the Jack Nicklaus Award that year also, and we both had an opportunity to go up to Muirfield Village during Jack's golf tournament, the Memorial. We had an opportunity to meet Jack Nicklaus, and that was very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So Scotty was very successful. He was the best player I've had, and the one thing about Scotty was that we helped him prepare better than he ever prepared himself before.
Yeah.
We taught him how to prepare for each round in tournaments, and most of these kids have never done that before, and that has proven to help our team be successful.
So is he somebody who comes back and talks to you from time to time and talks to the other players about that experience too? I mean,
he has had dinner with a couple of teams before
Yeah.
we go to nationals. He has come back and spoken to a couple of our teams. I like to bring back different players on a yearly basis to talk to our teams about what it is to be a St. John Fisher golfer.
yeah.
It's a little bit more difficult coming to St. John Fisher because we do have expectations. We have expectations that we will compete for a national championship. We have expectations that we will do well in the best Division III championship, best Division III tournaments rather. And we are invited to all the best tournaments. And our goal when we go there, when we arrive, is to win.
Yeah.
And to play our best. So it's a lot easier to go to a school that's not as good, that doesn't have the pedigree, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it does make it tough on our kids, but our kids have taken the challenge, and I've been very fortunate to coach some really good kids. We've coached 13 Division III All-Americans, which includes 3 this year in 2014. This year we finished 6th, and we finished in the top 10 the last 3 years in a row. So I'm very proud of what these kids have been able to accomplish.
Yeah. And, I guess it's not as easy to sort of practice in the winter in Rochester either. Do you have an indoor, I didn't ask you this before, but do you have an indoor facility where they're doing some things there too, or how does that work?
Yes, we do. We have a racquetball court, which we have 2 hitting bays set up. We have a flight scope, which we use.
Yeah.
And I believe that the best time to practice your putting stroke is indoors, where a person is not hole conscious.
Yeah.
So we get a great use out of our sand putt lab.
Well, Bob, that's some great stories about your successes. Now, so for those of us, and you mentioned this last night too, you heard what Rory McIlroy said about, the words that he was talking about and process and things like that. But so for general golfers, what kinds of suggestions would you give them about, how they can work to play their best golf, and have, obviously people going out on the weekend looking to have enjoyment, but it's also fun to play great, right? It's very much fun to play great. So,
well, I think many people get so wrapped up in the result of what happens with each swing that they forget to stay in the present. You have to have a process that you do. You have to have a routine that you perform every time. And in matter of fact, the most successful players perform the routine during the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So once you're able to perform your routine on a consistent basis in a timely fashion that fits your personal clock, then you will be successful. Also, players need to understand what their strengths are on the golf course. and they need to play to their strengths. Many people don't understand what their strengths are. So you have to continue to practice your strengths. In addition to that, you have to understand and be honest with yourself. That's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
Golfers are not honest with themselves. They have to know what their weaknesses are and work to improve the weaknesses. And many of the weaknesses of players, I was a rules official for our district championship this past weekend. And the weakness of most of the players, believe it or not, is course management. Although I like to use another term as opposed to course management is your own personal mind management.
Yeah.
People should only do things that they're able to do. Not the one time they did this, hit it between the 2-foot circle of trees, and they were successful. But the 99 other times that they failed, which led to double and triple bogeys. They have to learn how to manage their games. If people would chip out more as opposed to try to hit the hero shot, their scores would go down a lot.
Yeah. We see too many hero shots on TV, but the level of skill of those guys is in kind of a different world.
Well, they practice those shots.
Yeah.
I mean, a pro will sit. I like to see a kid practice, for example. There are 9 shots that you can hit at golf. The shots are a fade, okay?
Yeah.
A draw, and a straight ball. Hit at 3 different levels, high, medium, height, and low. Those are the 9 shots of golf. That's how you should practice. Practice hitting golf shots. It's a waste of time hitting the same shot time and time again on the range. You're not learning anything. You're not playing golf.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I see a lot of pros giving people lessons on the practice tee, and they're teaching them how to hit golf ball, but they're not teaching them how to play golf. By hitting the 9 shots of golf, you are practicing golf, because those are the 9 shots you'll be required to hit when you're on the golf course.
This morning I got up and read, I think I listened to this, or read this Eye on the Tour thing, and it said Rory practiced all kinds of strange lies and bad positions and all this stuff before this tournament. He said he felt like he was one of the most prepared times he was for all the stuff that could have happened if there was a lot of wind and all that stuff this week. And it didn't happen, but he was ready for that.
I know that my players sometimes frown when we work on hitting wedge shots out of divots, because ultimately there's going to come a time when you have to hit a shot, and that's no reason not to be able to play that shot if you don't practice it. You have to practice shots that you will come into, that you will have on the golf course.
Well, Bob, thanks for all that interesting information today and talking about your story. And I know in talking to you that your attitude, like compared to what it was in 2000, is you sound like you're juiced about what you do. I guess that's what I'm saying. You have a good time and you really enjoy coaching the kids and love seeing their success. So that kind of shines through in all our discussions. So
I'm living the dream.
Yeah, pretty neat stuff. Well, to learn more about the St. John Fisher College golf teams, go to the sjfc.edu website, and under the athletic department, you can find out more there. And Bob, again, thanks for doing this interview with me today, and hopefully we'll see you sometime in November this year and get together again. And who knows, maybe we'll do a little Sam Putt Lab work this time and learn a little bit from each other. So.
Thank you very much, Tony, for having me.
Thanks a lot. You take care.
Thanks.
Bye now.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Bob, thanks again for that great interview today and a lot of your insights that have helped you and your players to be successful in terms of preparation and focus. Golf is a game worth playing well and paying attention to. And clearly you have been able to instill that in your players. I want to mention one other thing today. Some of you know that in mid-July, I was part of an effort to bring Aimpoint Express to East Tennessee. Actually, Scott Sikorsky, the head pro at Deer Creek, the Deer Creek Golf Course in Crossville, was really the big instigator of this, and I gave him a little bit of help. But this was an absolutely terrific experience in terms of learning green reading. I talked earlier about the member guest tournament we played this weekend. I read all the putts for my brother during the week, read my putts. Almost every putt was spot on in terms of read, and if not, it's because I missed some of the slope that was in the putt. But when I got the slope right and used my calibrations and things, and those are things you'd learn if you took the class, that process was absolutely spot on. It gives me an edge in terms of my putting that I never thought I'd have. It is possible to read greens very well. So I hope that we're going to have some other opportunities to bring Aimpoint Express to folks in East Tennessee, and we'll have some more information about that sometime in the future. And that's it for today. In 2 weeks, I will bring you an interview with Brian Morrissey, who is a very good friend and a custom club fitter from Canada. And he will talk about some of the specific things that he does in terms of custom club fitting and helping golfers to play their best golf. Until then, we will see you soon.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com